Hi folks, Rick here. Welcome to my channel. Alright, today we are going to check for pushrod length. Pretty easy to do. You know, if you're going with aftermarket heads, this is something that you're going to want to do. If you're changing out rocker arms to something different, something you're going to want to do like that, just to make sure that you got the right length and that kind of stuff like that. So pretty simple thing. It's best, you don't necessarily have to have them, it's best to have some nice checker springs, which are really lightweight valve springs. Put a couple of those in there, it really makes this job a little bit easier. And you're going to need a pushrod length checker. So it's basically an adjustable pushrod. I don't know where I sat the thing here off the top of my head, but I'll show you here in a minute. But it's basically an adjustable pushrod that allows you to shorten it or lengthen it there. So you will need something like that. They're pretty cheap. You can find them all over the place there. But yeah, pretty easy job. But this will make sure we got the right rocker arm geometry and the right pushrod and everything's matched up the way it should be. So let's get after it. Okay, so I've got an adjustable pushrod in here that you can screw in and out and stuff like that. There's a couple ways to do this. There's really an ideal way, which is a mathematic way, and that's the way I'm going to start it. And the reason why the mathematic one doesn't work all the time is just variances in manufacturers, variances, you know, if you decked your block, if you've got stock heads and you've ground the valves and then the valves are different and all that kind of stuff. So the mathematical way of setting up your geometry may not work for all applications. But I'm going to start off that way, and then when I get it set up there, we're going to go here and check to make sure that it all worked out, and if not, I'll make some adjustments. So to do this thing mathematically here, there's a couple things here we got to start with. So the first thing we want to do here is get everything set up, make sure our rocker arm, everything's in good shape. We want to draw a line between the center of this trunnion and the center of this pin. And then what we want to do is when your cam is like on top dead center and you're on your base circle here, you want this line to be perfectly parallel. And so this line here to be perfectly parallel. So if I sit here and adjust this thing here flat on top of my deal right here, I can look at it there and it is parallel going across. So that's our starting point. So we want to get that thing parallel. Now the next thing we want to do here is, you know, obviously parallel here with no lift is one thing, but now we want to adjust our lift. So let me show you here what I got. There's a little bit of math in this thing here. So on my intake here, I have got 5.28 is my max lift. What we want to do here, and you can kind of guess where we're going here, we want the center of our rocker arm geometry to be perfectly centered at half lift, so that way when it's a little off at no lift and a little bit off at max lift, but in general there it's going to be absolutely perfect. So we're going to start off here by taking our max lift to 528, dividing it by half. So that is half lift is 264 thousandths there. I then want to take our nut, which I've got a 3/8 nut, and the pitch on that thing that comes on there, one turn's about 42 thousandths. So you want to check that on yours. So if I divide this by 42, I get about 6.3 turns of my polylock. That's what I need to do. That will give me half lift, and I can measure that too if we want on that thing there. But what's going to happen here is I want to adjust that down 6.23 turns. That's going to give me the exact rocker geometry. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to end up here backing this off, turning this 6.3 turns, and then readjusting this till I'm at 0 lash. That will determine, you know, that'll make the thing dip like this, but it will be perfectly centered at half lift because that's what the adjustment's for. So let's get started with that here and it'll show you how this works. Okay, so I've adjusted my thing just to give me some slack here. You could also kind of take it out. What I want to do here is mark my little poly lock, so at least so I got a reference. And what I'm going to do is just count it down there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I need a third, which is going to be, there's a quarter and there's a third, which is right about where my poly lock is. So that should be exactly where I need to be. Let me put it back about right there. So now what I'm going to do here is I want to adjust this thing up here to 0 lash. So let me get started on that here real quick. I can't do that with one hand. Okay, so I've adjusted this up here at 0 lash. If we look at it here, you can see that it is tilted down a little bit because we've kind of let this side down. But then when it rocks like this, it gets 50%. It should be flat, and it's going to keep going down and be a little bit off. But that should put us right dead center of where we need to be. So what I need to do now is we want to go ahead and measure this push rod. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this and take a quick measurement. So let's take that out and we'll get it up on the bench and do a quick measure. All right, folks, I put a little tape around there so I wouldn't move. But we want to measure our push rod length here. I've got my dial caliper won't measure this big, so I've got this old one right here. You got to have like a magnifying glass there to read it. It measures 6.375 is the length on this thing. Now, they only sell push rods in certain lengths, so you could probably do this thing with a good, a well-marked ruler would probably work just as good on this thing. Because again, you're not going to find one the exact length whatsoever. It's going to be close. That's all you want to try to do. So once you get yours measured here, you want to add to it your preload length. So whatever your preload is, add that to the length of this, and that is the length that you need. And so it's pretty simple from here. So I'm going to get these on order. The next step here is I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this and kind of show you how to do it a more manual way. So we've done the mathematic way, and if that worked out, you should see it where it's going to be perfect here. But you could also just skip the mathematic way and do this. And basically what we're going to do is put a marker on top of the valve stem and then just rotate the engine. And then you should see a very thin patch, a wear mark, right dead center of your valve stem. That's what we're looking for. So you could just start by doing this and just trial and error and get it to where it's in the dead center, and you should be pretty darn close. But I want to go ahead and do it the right way to start with, and then we'll just check it this way. But you could just skip to this point. So let's get set up here with a marker, and we'll get going on that one. Okay, so I got my push rod on there. I put a little bit of tape. I also here got a marker. I only had a permanent marker. I'm not sure if that's going to work. It's better to have like a dry erase or something that's not as permanent as this one. But you want to black out the top of your head, because what we're going to do here, going to install this here. Make sure we're all nice and set in there. We'll go ahead and put our lock on here, back down to zero lash. Can do this with one hand. Amazing how difficult it is trying to do something looking at your phone. So we just want to push this down to basically 0 lash, which is where we're at. That looks good right there. You can feel the nut stop. That's 0. So what we want to do now is crank this around a couple times, and what's going to happen here is that roller is going to roll over top of that, hopefully that black of that Sharpie, and it's going to wear a pattern in there, and we're going to want to double check that to make sure it's in the center. So let's get set up for that. Okay, we'll roll this thing over a couple of times. Once more. Here it comes. Okay. Keep track to my top dead center here. All right, pretty good. Let's pull this off here very gently. And we'll see what we got. With these checker springs and a permanent marker, I'm not 100% sure if we're going to get a mark on this thing or not. Let's see. Man, you know, starting, if I haven't told you already, after doing this project here, I am starting a new business in January. So I want to let you know so you guys can get in on it quick. But my business is losing shit. So the process is, if you want something lost, you just send it to me and I will lose it so fast you won't even know whether or not you sent it or not. I tell you, I don't know what it is, but I can't find anything anymore. But that's my new business. All right. So let me take this off here. Let me get set up for you. All right. So I can see a little bit in the center, but you really can't see squat. So I got to go try to find a different marker and we'll try this over again. You don't want to use a permanent marker. It just doesn't seem to work with a darn. Well, I found something. So I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. We'll try it. Otherwise, I'm just going to eyeball it a little bit. These checker springs don't have very much pressure on them, so all right, let's try this again here. Obviously, you want to be careful not to adjust your push rod nor score the top of it with everything. Let's see if I can see anything here. All right, this didn't work with a darn either, but at least there's a spot. Let's see if I can get it to show you here. I got to get on the right one here. Let's see here. You can see here, it's not very good, but right there at the tip of my phone, it's really on that side there, and it's looking pretty good. It's dead center, it's tight, so I think I'm really good, happy with that on there. So it's right dead center. I'm not getting a very good, it's just not, I probably don't got the right marker, and I just don't got enough spring on this dang thing to do anything with a checker spring. But I am fine with that. That is looking good. I'm going to check this one here, and then let's get on with the show and actually install our head. I got to pull all these off. So I'm going to do the exhaust really quick, and we'll be done. Okay, there. So now you can see that thing's dead center and a nice small sweep. So that's what I was trying to get on the other side. I just couldn't get it. Maybe I got a little bit of oil or something on this one here. It's making it a little bit where it's not sticking good, but that's dead center. So I'm going to go in quickly as I can and get my push rods over. Hopefully maybe they'll get picked up today and I'll get them. And then what I'm going to do is remove all this stuff, and then we're going to start from scratch on installing our head. So this job is done. So yeah, pretty easy on there. Again, the mathematical way is really to make your set up your exact right geometry. It may not work perfect, but it's a good way to get started. Then as a double check, you put again some like a dry erase marker, something that's not very permanent on there. Roll it over a couple of times there and check your measurement, make sure it's good. So everything is in good shape here with this. And yeah, we are done with checking our push rod lengths.